Elevator systems. Bowen family systems theory in brief for a life of learning. Welcome to Elevator Systems, where we look at Bowen family systems theory ideas and concepts in brief and understandable ways. Today is our last episode of season 4. So we are at our last hot topic, and Katie and I are pleased to welcome Kathy Wiseman to the podcast today as we talk about the very hot topic of money. Thanks for joining us, Kathy.
Well, it's great to be here. I think
Remains to be seen.
Right.
Exactly. Let me introduce you. Kathy trains and coaches people who live, work, and govern in family business, family foundations, and family offices. Kathy is a faculty member at the Bowen Center and was adjunct faculty at the George Washington University School of Business and the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership. She also served as the president of the Family Firm Institute and dean of the Family Office Exchange Learning Academy. After founding Working Systems, Kathy provided consultation and coaching to over 400 national and international family organizations and individuals. And she also speaks to national audiences, and she writes. She has co-authored 3 books, Understanding Organizations, The Emotional Side of Organizations, and Trustworthy, which I greatly appreciated for a project a few years ago. Kathy is also mother to 3, grandmother to 5, and actively engaged with her energetic extended family. So Kathy has just a slight amount of experience on this topic. You get the first elevator pitch on Bowen theory and money.
Well, all of that sounds great about my background, but I want to give a little context. I met the Family Center in Mary Bowen and was in training with him and coaching for 13 years and doing a series of videotapes. My husband and I were going through a difficult time. At the same time, I was getting my MBA at George Washington. So I was learning about business systems and money, and I was learning about family systems, and that was a gift. And from there, my curiosity just grew. How did it affect who worked in a family business, the longevity, the transfer of ownership? And then because I had worked as a consultant to labor management, think of consultant labor management triangle, I got to try out these concepts. Not really well, but I had a way to think about labor management and a consultant and how a consultant can get in the way of good problem solving. So I had Bowen theory, which I kept learning because I was fascinated, and I had the workplace. So what happened was I had a couple of family businesses where I took the assignment because I thought it was going to propel my career meteorically. And I had no self in consulting because I wanted to please the referring source. And all of a sudden it hit me, how was I going to use my knowledge, not for others, but for the way I managed myself in very difficult situations? Changes in the workplace, labor management problems, a death of a CEO, a change in technology. How was I going to use this theory? I made so many mistakes trying to show that I knew what they should do. I'm the oldest of 4 girls. I've always known what to do for others. And so the process of Bowen theory gave me a way to relate to people without knowing what they should do. That doesn't mean you don't have a strategy and help people think through a strategy, but the edge of knowing what somebody else should do especially in a business consulting relationship. So I can tell you about my mistakes because they were amazingly helpful. And I began to watch my own functioning. And I had been studying my family and the challenges and how we met them. And that was just an encyclopedia of knowledge about self. So I entered the field of family business consulting, and I got to be president of the organization. And I was so clear of wanting to belong and wanting to lead from my own thoughtfulness, but still wanting to have relationships. And it was an incredible lesson in leadership. How do you belong and how do you be a self? How do you take stands? So each one of my career paths had enormous learning in them. And then I started working with families of wealth. And that was a whole new level of mistakes and learning. And I can only say that I don't know another theory of change or evolution that deals with the multi-generational process that lives with all of us and the notion of anxiety. Without any appreciation of anxiety in self or in the system, I think you're really at a loss. And I think money, a lot of it, and the loss of it, and the unequal distribution of it can generate enormous emotional reactivity. It gets names to it, like you're selfish, or you're greedy, or you don't care. But in fact, it has much more to do with anxiety in a system that has developed over many generations. So it has been a challenge. And I would say that I try and keep learning because it never is easy for me to help families think about the future where they want to work together, but they still want to be different from one another. So how do you do that? It is a wonderful challenge. And I like that. So it's been a wonderful career. But, when you read all those accolades, each one was such a workout. It was like a workout because I made so many mistakes. And I remember I had just become president of Family Firm Institute, and two of my good friends in a break followed me into the ladies' room to espouse different positions on what we should do. And I thought, holy mackerel, what am I going to do? These are good friends. How am I going to manage this? So I have examples of me trying to manage my own self as a consultant. And I think that's what Bowen gives you. Seeing the system, it is a system trying to work together. And then how do I relate with my best thinking, trying just to use the best thinking I can generate. But boy, that's hard.
I hear that.
Anybody who takes on kind of a systems way of thinking, it's so easy to say, this is the problem. But to expand it just adds much more challenge to the problem. But I think that's the beauty of the theory.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
A long answer to your short question.
There you go. I got
the stairs.
I got great notes in there. Mine is pretty succinct, and my pitch is thinking about money through the lens of Bowen theory. I get interested in how much money shows up in both the content and the context of people's lives. So it can both stir up and ease people's anxiety. It can be content around how triangles form or shift. And I think at its extreme, it can be the content that is represented in the emotional process that Bowen theory calls cutoff. So I think money can be a lens at which we watch the emotional process in the system. Multi-generationally, I think maybe more than other contents. Yeah.
I think there are ways to understand multi-generational wealth and the responsibility of moving it down the generations, using it well. And then there's individuals and families who don't care.
Yeah.
It's for consumption and now. And the real goal for me, and I don't know whether this answers your question, is how does this family evolve from what it is to what it would like to be, given the history and facts from the past. I think in the clients I have with sudden wealth, with a company going public, there is this sense of they're a stranger in this land. It's a new club they belong to. And it takes a while to figure out what's important. How do you show up, especially if your community knows it? How do you hold yourself in the system of your friendships, family? It's a really tricky thing and a chance to define yourself.
Yeah.
If you can think of that and not be so whipsawed.
Yeah, fair.
But Katie, I don't know that I answered your question.
No, that was good. That's good. I'm going to hear what Dixie's pitch is, and then we will come back.
Okay.
Yeah. My pitch is before our parents die and we inherit cash and capital, we have already inherited a lifetime of emotional process around money, or perhaps many lifetimes. So emotional process is one of those terms in Bowen theory that I've sort of always struggled to understand. But when I think about how I get when the subject of money comes up, it helps me understand what this is about. So there's like an energy, a tension, a level of like worry and awareness, and a lot of sort of automatic reactions that suddenly light up in me around the topic of money. And so I think if we all stop to think, we could probably describe the vibe around money in our families. So to sort of restate my pitch, we don't just pass on dollars and cents through the generations. We pass on a deeper embodied experience of money, and we do have some choice in how we think about it and what we do with all that we inherit around money. So that was my pitch.
Let me tell you a story about myself. My father was a lawyer in Philadelphia, a really smart lawyer. And he died on the week after he turned 65. And there was I was 30, and my other sisters went down to 20. My father, as an estates and trust lawyer, never talked to us. My mother had predeceased him, and my father had remarried a lovely woman. He never talked to us about what he had. And he had a nice living. He never talked to us about what we should do about my stepmother and providing for her. He had a sister who had Alzheimer's, 4 girls. We didn't know what to do. And my father was a really thoughtful, we didn't talk about money. We got allowance. We all worked, but it wasn't kind of a thing of value that he thought. He really left us in a mess. And if I told you, he left us with 2 executors that my sisters didn't like. So we got rid of the executors. I mean, what were we thinking? So here we had a prominent legal guy as a father, and he left us a mess. So here's the follow-up. I've been working on a will for about 4 years, a new will, because I moved to New Mexico. So I couldn't get it done. I can talk to my kids about money, and I've done that a lot, to the point they say, Mother, just write the will and be done with it. So I've gone the other extreme, and they know why. but I couldn't get it done. And then I sat down one day and thought about what I couldn't get done. We're all dispersed across the country. And the graveyard in Philadelphia is way the heck out. And my other daughter lives in Boulder. Well, I don't want to be buried. Where could I be buried? So it stalled me. And it was the key issue of where should my remains go. It stopped me from executing what I knew I had to. And then I was taking a hike one day and it came to me, I'm going to give each one a stepping stone made of my ashes they can put in front of their house. The next day, my will was done. So what I'm saying is family process, family history impacted, and I'm in this field, my ability to make a decision until I really thought about what was the issue. And, I say this to people, just stopping and thinking about your money, how you want to leave it, what is important to you, kind of the equivalent of the gravestone, the stepping stone. Right. So to think about what you've inherited and what you want to pass on. And my kids thought it was a great idea. So now I'm going to have 3 stepping stones.
I love that. That's great.
But it unleashed my thinking, but I needed to kind of reconstruct what had happened. And the fact that all of my ancestors are buried mostly in Philadelphia, if not in Europe. And nobody gets to see them. And I want interaction with my kids.
Right.
That's great. That's great.
So I say, Dixie, understanding what it is you're working with and what's important about money, I think is not a heavy conversation. I say that now after finally getting my grave headstones.
Right. Well, as you're talking, I wish I poured over this book a few years ago. There's I made some beautiful slides for presentations. I wish I had quoted you. I have some other pitches I'm going to give, and I'm like, I should have given a Kathy Wiseman quote because there's some real good ones in here, but I'll link to the book.
Okay.
But I also have Mariana Martinez, who's been on the podcast. She co-wrote Seeing the Blind Spot. So here's her pitch. Decisions about wealth in families touch on a sensitive emotional chord for family members. Such sensitivities have their roots in the history of the family and are the foundation of many future difficulties. Learning about the multi-generational past gives the professional a perspective as he or she addresses the present problems related to wealth. And then I have one more from Victoria Harrison. There's a couple articles in Family Systems Forum called The Emotional Side of Money. She says how people function financially is influenced by powerful emotional forces that arise in relationship to others within the family, the work system, and society. The promise and challenge in Bowen theory is that one can recognize and modify aspects of his or her own functioning in response to social and economic realities. And then later she says money is an emotional matter. One can review and evaluate expenditures with individuality and togetherness in mind. Which check was written in the service of togetherness? Which expense serves individuality? One woman reviewed her checkbook and noted that every bounced check involved overextending her resources for her daughter and grandchildren. A father depleted his retirement account to support a 30-year-old son who was unemployed. I could say more, but yeah, just that deeper automaticness of this all.
When this notion of either gifting or supporting in service of individuality or togetherness, have both of you experienced that? Because it's a powerful force.
I have a family history where people have gotten to be really thoughtful about how they share money and keeping it as a resource. But I think the one thing I was going to say, my example that I was going to come with where my individuality togetherness, in retrospect, I did not have Bowen theory, is both of my sisters. I'm also an oldest sister of sisters, Kathy. Both of my sisters went into much more lucrative jobs than me as a family therapist. And so all of them had bought houses, bought property pretty early on. And here's me, the oldest. And the way I watched, I got swept up in the togetherness. I was living with one of my sisters and she was about to get married. So I was thinking, I need to be a part of this togetherness. Thought I need to have a house. I'm getting into this, and did it so, in retrospect, irresponsibly, like got into a position it was the best. You say mistakes are our greatest teachers, I think, basically, Kathy. It was the greatest lesson about my own functioning from I want to be a part of the group. I want to be a part of this togetherness. I unfortunately just had to learn a lot of hard lessons about money in that process. But I think watching that in my own system of how I remember sitting down with my dad after I was like, I'm just having a hard time paying these bills. And he was like, Katie, you cannot afford this house you've just bought.
Really?
And just like from, I think, out of that and my mom's own experience in her family system, like learning, I need to be more thoughtful about this. Like it was a very good but expensive lesson in my life.
You know, a question I ask, and I can describe the process, is when you look back, what is the most exciting money mistake you made and the worst money mistake? And that it does allow you to think about kind of the upside of a mistake and the downside.
Yes.
And I think that is a wonderful starting question at a family dinner or something like that. The thing that I think about or have lately is this question of jealousy of one side of the family has much more money than the other. And how do you talk about it and how do you live about it? And for me, the ability to talk about it openly and talk about expectations is a really self-defining. It's not so much the disclosure, it's a self-defining thing to be able to say what you think about that.
Yeah. Kathy, the quote that you've said already today that I'm going to put on my wall. I love this, that idea you said relate without knowing what they should do. I think that is just such a beautiful capturing of, I'm going to relate to you. I'm going to be curious with you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I think that other part you've just named, which is, I'm going to think through what I believe here too.
Right. And being trained as a consultant or a therapist, you somehow think people want to know what to do from you.
Yeah.
I think the magic is, and this would be fun to talk about on air, off air, how do you ignite somebody else's curiosity and problem solving so that it's beyond either or black, white, and that it's tricky when people talk about unequal. You know, if one brother has made a fortune in a hedge fund and another loves being a garage mechanic, how do you talk about that in the family between them? Because I don't know that you ever resolve it, but the process of being able to talk about it. Money is a divide, but it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
And a source of kind of an emotional, what do you call it? Upheaval, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think that was such a good research question, is, that idea of how do you ignite the curiosity or the thinking. Trying to pull Dan Pepperow, I think, asked this question in a different way, but I can't pull his thinking in my brain right now about really just how do you get the other person curious about themselves?
And I think if you can even get that first step, new ideas will come.
Yeah.
I just met with Dan, I guess it was yesterday, about something that was really on my mind. And honest to God, he was just fabulous. I came away with 3 new ideas, all with him saying, this is not, I'm just throwing this out. This isn't a suggestion. But it really helped me. And I think that's the work. What happens when you work in a investment firm, they very much want you to have answers and solve the problems. And so you're always walking this tightrope of relating to the family and helping them solve their own problems and helping the firm give the time and process a chance. And there certainly are a few, but they are really looking, I think, to solve it quickly.
Yeah.
And I think these money inequality, the anxiety that comes with managing money well, judgments about money, the things that happen in friendships when when someone inherits a lot of money and the other doesn't, are all things that are worth not only talking about, but exploring together.
Yeah.
I think it's a rich subject.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate your naming the idea of, right, like an open system, you know, the usefulness in keeping a system open, being able to talk about things. Because I think money is one of those contents that can lock. Like I always talk with clients about thinking, I love the metaphor of the dance and thinking about if you step on someone's toe and don't ever go in that direction again as your modification. And I think money is one of those. Like if you talk about money and your spouse gets really uncomfortable with that, is that something that you just shut down and don't go there again versus keeping that conversation open, managing the discomfort in you?
Let me ask both of you a question. In the subject of money, what's the hardest thing for you to explore, talk about, relate to? What's the hardest part of it?
Like in my own family or with clients?
Either. My guess is they're connected.
Yeah. I would have a different answer if you asked me that 10 years ago or 15 years ago than if you ask now. Because I think I've done some work on this. Because I think that money was something that was not necessarily talked about as much in my growing up family, except for probably, well, maybe it's been 20 years now, for like 15, 20 years where there was, an event that caused people to start thinking about these things and being more open about them. And so I think just even talking about it, asking about it. I mean, and I think it's as a clinical family. So I wouldn't have thought about that with clinical families. It wouldn't have been a question as I'm sitting down with them that would have gone into my intake. And I think now, especially when I'm working with couples, it's just a part of what I'm thinking about as I'm assessing this system. So I think just the interesting things that come out of those, again, like widening that lens when you ask families about that. So I guess my answer is, Kathy, that if you asked me that 10 years ago, I probably would have said there were a lot of areas I didn't talk about. And I think the work of that has been, how do I get more open and upfront about this and get more clear about what I think, what I'm comfortable with.
So you do talk to clients about it, or because it's a marker.
Yeah.
It's a real marker. Dixie, what about you?
I would say probably like spending and responsibility. I was talking to a few people recently of like, how does somebody decide they can afford something? Because I usually ask permission, but I'll ask for forgiveness from my husband. I'm sure it's fine. But I said, how do we define if we can afford something? And he's like, well, he's like, I think the question is, should we get this? Do we need this? And so it's just been interesting, especially as my kids now are adults, and I come from a very generous family in the generations above. And then I go to that Dr. Papero question, what is the help that helps? And I remember with my son once, we were on a holiday somewhere and he was looking online and he says, Mom, can you buy me this record? Just like bursts out. And I'm like, no, that was the first thing out of my mouth. And I took a beat and I said, actually, I'd really love to buy you that record, but I think it would help way more for you to figure out how to make some money for you to buy it for yourself.
That's
so just like just seeing these automatic, that's why I describe that tension that I feel, because it's hard to know, what can we afford? And how do you decide that? And what is the level of maybe credit card debt or the buffer in an account that a family is comfortable with?
Yes.
And
maybe there should be a course on Bowen theory and money.
It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea.
My other example was the phrase keeping up with the Joneses, which I think is, speaking of that, how do we fit, how do we rank with the group? But I've noticed and I don't know if it's sort of like evangelical Christian circles, but it's like we don't keep up with the Joneses, we keep down with the Joneses by justifying how cheaply we bought something, or we did this because we didn't do that. Like, we're not trying to prove up, we're trying to prove down. That's I do it myself. I got that on sale, or and so I go back to that quote, don't withdraw, attack, defend, define instead. And I'm like, how do I just know my own financial situation instead of trying to prove up or prove down what I've spent money on?
Oh, that's great. So, so much of what operates in the current day has to do with the fear of loss of money in prior generations. And that's your whole stuff.
I'm going to get a quote here that was so useful on just that. So I said to Kathy and Dixie listeners that I read this article by Eileen Pendergast from 1983 on, she did this case study of wealth, which I can link. I don't know if you can get it, so you might have to contact me if you want to get it. And she said, she talks about this case study of multiple families. And she said, one of the most important things that I have observed in treating these families is the similarity of their reactions when they are faced with the real or threatened loss of part or all of their assets. No matter what the presenting problem has been, no matter what we have worked on in therapy regarding the handling of money, no matter how many interlocking triangles are addressed or shifted, no matter whether one or both of the marital partners are on the brink of divorce, once economic security is threatened, all problems, issues, and work are moved to an emotional back burner. She talks about this intensity driving up and relating to this both in wealthy families and families with less means. And I thought that was just kind of got to something that I think that's where you were thinking there, Kathy. Maybe not, but I just thought that was so useful.
It said when one's economic well-being is threatened, whether you're rich or poor.
Yes.
That is something, Katie, that we might want to ask a primatologist. If one's food supply is threatened, or there have been generations of threatened food supply, it would be the same kind of disruptive behavior. See, that really does pass down through the generations. Did you ever see The 9 Months That Made Me, the TV series?
No.
Oh, I will make a note to send it to you. It was, I think, on PBS. And it talks about the development of the embryo. And it describes a family where there were, I think in Canada, where there was an ice storm that cut off all electricity for a long period of time. And this is up in your cold Canada.
Yeah.
And the baby that was carried, the stress on the mother when their food supply, water, electricity was all cut off, showed up in significant ways in the offspring. And I can't remember what month it was, but they talked about this kind of trauma. So it was really climate trauma that isolated them. And her son had a number of problems behaviorally. It, for me, underscored kind of this multi-generation process that happens within our genes. So I think the same thing about money, scarcity and abundance. is what is inside of us driving our decision making.
Yeah.
How would we get? We've got a couple good ideas here. I'll send that to you.
Well, and I think, Kathy, like just even this idea of Bowen theory and money, like how when you're exploring a family diagram with an individual or a family system, how do you ask about that? I mean, I had a really good coach ask that to me: is if you're getting anxious around money, what has that looked like in the previous generations in your family? And I was, it was just bingo. There was a generation that did have some windfalls and I guess the other way, some ups and downs in that department, and how that would automatically create an emotional response in the system to adapt to that.
I know that to be true in my family. And when I ask about it, how would you describe events that shaped your view of money? So I asked them, give me 5 highs and lows over your lifespan of where money impacted the family or the thinking. And so it's on a graph. You can see the evolution of the problem right on a piece of paper without, anything fancy. So I think there are ways, and you've got a good one, of how do you get in touch with what you're bringing into the problem that may not relate to it. And money is such a trigger.
Yes.
It is for me.
Yeah, well, and it's not getting any better in our larger society.
And how do you get a couple and a family to think about it together? That's been, I've had an assignment with an interesting family. How do we work together to incorporate what's needed now and what will be needed in the future? And I'm sitting with a family foundation where the 4 adult children will inherit a bit of money. The parents wanted to go on to provide schooling and health care for the kids. And this generation, at least 2 of them, are wanting the money, some of it now. And how do siblings, 2 don't need it, and 2 could use it for school tuitions and stuff? How do you negotiate that?
I just think, Kathy, that is such an important question. And I'm going to speak as a family therapist, and I think it's an important question every family therapist should be answering now. I heard some statistic that with the boomer generation, that's like the greatest intergenerational transfer of wealth that, at least I think it was the United States statistic, has ever seen. And I can tell you in my private practice, I'm already sitting with families who are trying to figure out, how do we relate to this? How do we think about this? So much. I mean, if they don't end up in my office because they're thinking, how do we relate to this? They're usually ending up in my office because they're like, my kid won't talk to me. My sister hates me.
I hate
my parents left without a will. And so now we're fighting over all the resources, so I think it is really something that people who want to sit with families really need to just think through and have a thoughtful way of thinking about it. And I think Bowen theory is one of those ways that could be
the notion of how do you both gift? How do you gift? Do you gift equally? Do you gift for need? Do you give for future, well-being? You got to think about this.
And your questions really point to the facts, I think. What are the highs and lows? What do you anticipate will be future needs? I mean, those are questions that can be answered reasonably factually.
And I will tell you the process I use, and I'd be interested in your feedback. Each person speaks for themselves, and there's no questions to be. So a family, 6 people are sitting together, and you can say what you want in answer to these questions, but you can't ask questions. So you are completely safe is the wrong word, but you're not going to get, but what about this or what? So, and then they come back 2 weeks later and they can add to that. What did they not say that they'd like to expound on? No questions. So I don't know whether they're talking about it at home. I don't care.
Yeah.
And the third time, usually the questions that brought them in are able to get answered. And I do this with a financial advisor present, their financial advisor present.
Yeah.
And there's something about being completely open with your family and they can't question you. Now, I ask people not to talk about this, but they can write about it when they go home, but not to discuss it. And I think that's what's happening. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this notion of money and its use and how it divides people, it can bring people together, and sharing what are highs and lows seems to, I don't know, quiet the anxiety. I don't know why.
Two thoughts popped up into my brain while you were describing that. One, the idea of how I've always seen group consultation run with a Bowen clinician is, that they talk directly to the consultant, right, not to each other. And I think that I've just observed the way that frees up someone's thinking. And I appreciate the way it might free up someone's observing if they don't think that they have to defend.
Right.
So that's so interesting. And I also think, because this is a pet project of mine to think through, is the resource of an individual who's consulting with a system who is really well defined. Like the resource that brings to a system to think that you go in there really clear of here's how I'm structuring this, here's what I'm willing to do, here's what I'm not willing to do. I think that also, who's thought about this, is a resource to the system to be able to think. So those are I don't know, what would you say to that?
I think you give me too much credit. It is so hard.
Yeah.
To structure something like this and not want group interaction.
Yeah.
As I know that group interaction does not solve a lot of things. So I'm trying different things to get the self to come out and be present in a group that can hold difference.
Yeah.
And I'm experimenting with it with a co-op and condo board here in the States about not answering, talking, but stating what you think. And then I don't know, but it's worth my while to try it.
Yeah. And you have a project for yourself in it too, it sounds like.
I do. I'm not sure I know what's happening theoretically, but it's worth the experiment.
Yeah. I was thinking, does clarity, Katie, you said if someone is clear, in my mind that automatically, that clarity makes them less open-minded. But I don't think that's the case, but that's sort of my default. I'm so clear, but you said clear with your eyes, right? What does it mean to be clear about one's beliefs and curious?
Yeah,
I guess.
So clarity, you think, can have a level of rigidity to it. Like it could have a variation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe that's the only time I seem to be clear is when I'm angry enough to.
Well, there's something to be said for that. And how do you allow people to have their emotionality and live with it, even though it could be disruptive to the system, and be okay?
Oh, there's a great question.
So I have used that question. People talk about individuals, they prize individuality, but darn, when it comes down to it, it's hard sometimes. For me too.
Yeah.
But I think Bowen thinking allows you to have some flexibility in this and appreciate what you're up against, and you might not get far, but you keep thinking. That's kind of my mantra.
Yeah.
I don't know how far I get, but I keep it.
Well, and I think it's, it's that one of the things that I've appreciated on this podcast, that the gift that we've been given is to sit and talk with a lot of people who use Bowen theory. And the constant is this interest and effort in working on self. And I think that theory would say that adds something to the system. That's adding something to this process, is there's an individual who's just interested in themselves and working on themselves and thinking about these things.
But it is not, it's not a direction that a lot of people go in.
Not fair.
So
Not for the faint of heart, I thought you would say.
That's right. That's right. That is for sure. It is not. And, I'm so grateful that I was introduced to this. I think it has saved my life. Because my tendency would be to go along with until I got so mad that I'd have to cut off. And that's a horrific position to be in. So I think this really has made a difference in my functioning, both with my family and with the workplace.
Well, there you go.
Sure.
There's the plug to end on.
Well, I love this. This is great.
Yes.
Talking to you both.
Great. So great. Dixie, did you have a takeaway that you wanted to throw out here?
Yes, my takeaway is a little teaser, because our bonus, so we're done season 4 here, but our bonus episode is looking at beliefs with Anne McKnight. And I will say we write a beliefs paper every year for the postgraduate training, I think at the Bowen Center, but certainly at Living Systems. And I wrote on money for my first ever beliefs paper. And I've been thinking lately, I need to write a beliefs paper about purchasing beverages at restaurants, because there is something deep in my heritage that says this is a deep waste of money, because you could buy this for an eighth of the price and enjoy it later. And so this is my summer.
There you go.
Do you feel the same way about wine?
Well, I don't drink a lot of wine, but probably would be I'm just doing that cost calculation versus, hey, Dixie, why don't we just enjoy this evening instead of cost comparison? That would be the voice of my European husband. So that's my silly sort of, like, you can take it about anything, right? But I think there's so much in money that can benefit from a beliefs paper, thinking through for self and where it came from. So that is coming up in the coming weeks. That episode will be out.
You guys are amazing. Good luck with carrying this on.
Thank you, Kat. Do you have any other things that you wanted to say that you didn't get to?
Let me look through my notes. I mean, I think it's just been great fun.
Yeah, it has been fun.
Thank you for including me.
Thank you.
Thank you. For these.
Thank you. Okay, now I get to end with making a little plug for money. Here we go. And so what a nice thing on this is, one of the things that I always end with is that if you are interested, listeners, in supporting the behind the scenes work that helped make this podcast a success, we do have the availability or the ability for you to donate to our Ko-fi site, buy us a coffee, support the efforts that are going on behind the scenes. All the people who participate are not paid to be here, but it does take a good amount of work to edit and put these things together. So that's my my little plug about money. The other things I will put out there is, if you're interested in learning more about Bowen theory, I will say it's registration time for probably most programs. Living Systems has our registration open for programs that will start in the fall. I know the Bowen Center has your registration open, and Kathy runs the Differentiation at Work program at the Bowen Center. So if you're interested in learning and thinking a lot more about Bowen theory and work organizations, please fill out the application to register for that program, which starts in September, right?
October. But
October.
Thank you. I'd love to hear about your programs that are on the website.
Yes, they are all on our website. So our registration is open. And the last plug I'm going to put in before I turn it back to Dixie is, I have started talking about the International Conference for Bowen Theory, which is hosted in Vancouver in July of 2027. And our call for abstracts have gone out. So if you are interested in presenting your thinking, sharing it with a group of Bowen folks, please get in contact with Dixie or myself, and we will be happy to share that. Our abstracts are open through August. Or if you just are interested in attending and hearing Bowen thinkers and having lots of conversations, it will be a hybrid conference. Please send us an email so you can get on the list to hear more information as it becomes available. So we hope that we will see you at a future event.
What, can the presenters be at a distance?
Yes.
They can.
I have a great topic.
Great. All right.
Send it our way. Good. Well, it was a great conversation today, and I hope that those who've tuned in all season with all of these hot topics, that you keep on being curious and observing and thinking as you go out into your relationships. This podcast is produced by Living Systems, a nonprofit organization in Vancouver offering counseling and training programs in Bowen family systems theory across Canada.